Okay, so I built the quiz, and they're now taking the privilege quiz. And what's happening is based on their answer choices, they're either moving forward with correct answers or incorrect answers to see where they stand on the privilege spectrum. And so I wanted to see what this looks like. They have, of course, pseudonyms that they're using, but they're all taking the 40 question quiz right now, and they'll see where they stand in the end with their privilege.
Okay, so in the end, this is where they stand. You can see each student by name based on the most privileged and the least privileged. And you can see actually what their answers were. You can even show how long they spent thinking about those answers. And so you can see that some of the questions took longer than other questions. You can also look at it from a question view. For example, being right-handed, 16 out of the 17 students were right-handed. So that's an easy question. But as you get down to harder questions, like do you have servants, most of them didn't have servants. And so there are different levels of privilege. And then when I asked them after this what they thought of the quiz, I mean, they really enjoyed taking them. It really got them thinking about privilege and non-privilege. And so this does work. I'm using quizzes, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with quizzes, but basically quizzes is like this. And I can actually share this quiz with you if you want. I created the quiz basically using the question prompts. And so I can go into my quizzes, but in my quizzes I have this privilege walk, and it's a virtual quiz, and you can see all the questions are here. I put it into a binary yes/no based on privilege, and tested it this morning with students, and they had a great time. It led to some really interesting conversations, and so if this is what you're looking for, this is something you could try. I even be willing to share the link with you, or you can copy the quiz and duplicate it. It's up to you. Just let me know. I wanted to make a quick video for you just in case we didn't get to meet. All right, I'm heading out of town. I'm heading to Miami today. All right, so bye-bye. One last thing, I'm going to share the quiz with you, and it'll take you to a page that looks like this. And when you go to click and play live, if you want to try this with your students, what you can do is it's going to ask you to sign in. And the reason for that is that it actually allows you to keep the reports. But if you don't care anything about keeping the reports, you can just cancel that out, and then you can proceed. Now, my recommendation, since we're not shuffling the questions, we want them to go in the same order, I would turn that feature off. It also allows you to shuffle your answers. Because they're yes or no binaries and they're inverted questions, some of them, you just want to keep that turned off as well. Students don't need to know if they got the answer right or wrong. If you get an answer wrong, it means you're not privileged. If you get an answer right, it means you're privileged, and so that could lead to some bias in the test if people want to appear privileged. I left the show the quiz review on, so at the end we could talk about the different quiz questions, and that led to some nice conversation. I also left the leaderboard on so you could actually see, and that's what you were looking at, that board where people were going through and you could see their privilege. I turned the timer off. I let them take as much time as they wanted, but it was neat to see how long each group was taking with certain questions. And some of the questions took longer, which then led to some nice prompts on why did it take you so long to respond to these questions versus these other questions. The memes, I turned that off. That's great for quizzing, but basically if you get an answer wrong, it shows you a funny meme that kind of challenges you. I don't recommend that at all. You can keep the music on. You can use the memes when you're playing learning games, but with this, it's a little more serious, and so I'd probably turn the memes off. But once you do that and you click proceed, basically it'll give you a class code. And so all of your students will simply go to the join, which is going to be listed here. It's called join.quizzes.com. They'll put in this code, and then each individual on their own individual devices can sign in. They can put in a pseudonym so that it's a fake name, they know what it is, and then they can start the quiz once you start it. And then you'll see that leaderboard of everybody who's privileged or not privileged, and they'll be sitting in their own chairs. They'll know who they are. They can answer honestly without fear of anybody knowing what their answers are and see where they stand. So again, I hope you like this solution.